There is a war taking place inside you, not with fists, not with guns, but with thoughts, with beliefs, with the silent architecture of your mind, and most people, they don't even realize it's happening. They walk through life blind to the enemy within, dragged forward by beliefs they never chose, living a future they never designed. But you are not most people. That's why you're here, and I'm going to tell you the truth. The truth is this: your beliefs are not facts. They are forged, chosen, inherited, or invented, and if they were built, they can be rebuilt, rewired, reinvented. The greatest lie ever sold to mankind is that belief is something passive, something you have or don't have. But belief is not found, it is formed, it is a decision backed by discipline, it is faith crafted by fire. Thomas Edison didn't have belief handed to him, he chose it after 10,000 failures. Andrew Carnegie didn't wait for the world to believe in him. He decided at a young age that he would become the belief that others lacked. Walt Disney was told his ideas were childish, delusional. He kept believing anyway and built a kingdom on that conviction. They weren't special, they were stubborn, focused, willing to break the inner chains that most people never touch. And so I ask you, whose voice is living in your head? Whose belief system are you carrying? Because if your future feels like a cage, I promise you the bars are made of thoughts. Thoughts you can melt down and forge into keys. Your mind is not your enemy, but it will enslave you if you do not command it. Most people allow their beliefs to be sculpted by circumstance, by rejection, by fear, by family, by failure. They let the outer world dictate the inner world. But every man or woman who has built a life worth remembering, they flipped the formula. They made the inner world the cause, and the outer world the effect. You've been told to be realistic. But the men who changed history were never realistic, they were relentless. They weren't prisoners of what is, they were visionaries of what could be. And they knew something most never discover, that your brain is not the master your belief is. That if you program your thoughts with precision, your reality must follow, because what you truly believe. You eventually become. Your mind is like soil. It does not care what you plant. Seeds of doubt, seeds of faith, seeds of fear or power, it will grow what you feed it. So if you want to change your future, stop digging in the dirt of your past. Start planting in the field of your vision. The moment you start questioning your limitations, you start bending the rules of what's possible. You were not born to repeat, you were born to rewrite. Rewire the belief that you are too late. Rewrite it with this: I am right on time because purpose doesn't have an expiration date. Rewire the belief that success is for others. Rewrite it with this: greatness is not given. It's summoned by those who demand it with their thoughts, with their energy, with every decision they make. Rewire the belief that you are defined by what you've failed at. Rewrite it with this: I am defined by what I choose to rise from, because you are the author, you are the narrator, you are the engineer of this mental machinery. And when you start running that control panel with purpose instead of passivity, life bends. When Henry Ford decided to build a V8 engine, every engineer told him it was impossible. Every blueprint failed. But Ford didn't waver. He said, build it anyway. That was the difference. He believed with such violence of certainty that the world eventually caught up. That's the kind of belief that reshapes destiny. Not the belief that whispers, the kind that roars, and let me be clear, this kind of belief isn't convenient. It's a battle with the old you. It's a war with the voice that says, who do you think you are? And the answer is this: I am someone who no longer takes orders from fear. You want to talk about power. Real power isn't in your circumstances. It's not in your bank account, your resume, or your title. Real power is the moment you refuse to be ruled by the same beliefs that once broke you. It's the quiet morning when you choose discipline over comfort. It's the silent night when you choose persistence over pity. That is the arena where champions are made, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows of self, doubt where belief is born. Let me tell you what belief is not. It is not empty affirmations. It is not blind positivity. It is not pretending everything is fine when you're drowning. No. Belief is the decision to climb while still bleeding. It is the resolve to rise even when the storm hasn't passed. You don't get to believe after you've succeeded. You believe until you do. It's the internal fire that keeps whispering, "One more try," when everything in you wants to quit. And that's when the breakthrough comes, when you're just about to surrender, but instead you decide, "I don't care how it looks, I know how it ends," because you've seen it already in your mind, and once a future is vividly imagined, it begins pulling you toward it like gravity. The mind cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is real. That's why your beliefs shape your biology, your perception, your actions. That's why you must protect your mind like a sacred temple, because whatever enters it will eventually exit your life as result. And if you want new results, it's not about working harder first. It's about thinking differently, about rewiring the mental blueprint before you pour the concrete. This world will try to convince you that things are fixed. That you are fixed, but there's nothing fixed about you. Your brain is plastic. Your identity is elastic. Your life is a living document and you hold the pen. The question is not, can you change? The question is, will you command the forces inside you to change everything around you? Because belief, when practiced like a discipline, becomes an unstoppable energy. It reshapes the invisible before it ever touches the visible, and most people never tap into it because they never confront the source of their stagnation. They just decorate it. They paint over doubt. They cover fear with distractions. They numb pain instead of transforming it. But the ones who rewrite their future, they go deeper. They rip out the old programming by the root. They ask the hard questions. Where did this belief come from? Who told me I was average? Who convinced me to shrink? And then they do something revolutionary. They stop listening. They start rewriting the story. You are not your upbringing. You are not your failures. You are not your bank balance, your diploma, or your doubts. You are who you decide to be now, and now again, and now again. You are the cumulative result of every belief you repeat. So if you repeat greatness, greatness begins repeating itself through you. But this isn't magic. This is mechanics, mental mechanics. Every belief is a filter, a lens through which you experience life. If you wear the lens of lack, everything you see confirms scarcity. If you wear the lens of possibility, everything starts to shimmer with potential. And if you dare to put on the lens of destiny, then every failure becomes a lesson. Every delay becomes preparation. Every challenge becomes confirmation that you're getting closer. But here, this belief without action is delusion. The mind may be the architect, but action is the builder. If you do not move, your beliefs rot. They calcify, and then you become one of those people who say, "I always knew I was meant for more," but never lived like it. You don't need to wait for perfect clarity. You don't need a 10-step plan. You need to move. You need to act like belief is already the truth. That's how Edison found the filament. That's how Lincoln rewrote his legacy. That's how men and women with no advantages rose from dirt floors to dominate industries, governments, legacies, because they refused to wait for someone else to validate the fire they already carried. They didn't ask permission to believe in themselves. They declared it, and that declaration must come from you now, not later, not someday, because someday is the enemy of greatness. Someday is how dreams die dressed in hope. Belief is a verb. It's a way of walking, of speaking, of showing up in rooms with no applause, and still delivering like the world is watching. You speak belief before the evidence shows up, and then you move with such intensity that the evidence is forced to show up. And yes, people will doubt you. That's their job. Your job is to doubt their doubt. Your job is to believe so deeply that others start believing just by being around you. Let your certainty be contagious. Let your clarity be confrontational. Let your energy offend the laziness in others, because belief is not polite, it's not quiet, it's not small. Real belief is dangerous, dangerous to mediocrity, dangerous to complacency, dangerous to the version of you that almost made it but never did. Burn that version, rebuild from the fire, because the future doesn't belong to the most talented. It belongs to the most decided. The ones who rewire their belief systems so completely that the old identity has nowhere left to hide. Don't just upgrade your goals, upgrade the operating system they run on, tear out the self-limiting scripts running silently in the background, the ones that whisper, be realistic, play it safe, you're too much, you're not enough, that's malware. Kill it, replace it with this, I am the author of my outcomes, I am the architect of my belief, I do not bow to old programming, I rise above it, I write new code in the language of power. Understand, belief without clarity is noise. But belief with vision, that's a declaration of war on the ordinary. And vision is not what you see with your eyes. It's what you see with your mind when your eyes are closed and your heart is screaming yes. Vision is the invisible magnet that drags the impossible into reality. Every empire began in the silence of a man or woman daring to believe in something they could not yet touch, and they held that belief so fiercely, the universe had no choice but to obey. That's your task now. Rewire what you accept as true. Rewrite what you tolerate from yourself. Reject anything that doesn't align with the highest version of who you're becoming, because the mind is programmable, and if you don't program it, someone else will. It's time to start living like belief is your birthright, not your burden. You were not put here to repeat the patterns of the broken. You were put here to break them, to bend time and bend outcomes by the sheer force of internal conviction. To stare at the future and say, I see it, I feel it, I own it, and then to act accordingly with fire, with focus, with discipline so sharp it cuts through every excuse like steel. Understand this, your belief is not just mental. It's biological. It lives in your nervous system. It speaks in your posture, your breath, your pace. When you carry deep belief, your body moves differently. You walk with intent. You speak with resonance. You show up with presence. You don't need to explain it. People feel it. They sense something in you that cannot be faked. That's the power of belief encoded into identity. But most people live in reverse. They wait to feel confident before they act. They wait to be believed in before they believe in themselves. That's not how this works. Confidence is not a reward, it's a consequence, and belief isn't found on the path. Belief is the path. It's the seed that grows the oak, the whisper that becomes a war cry, the thought that becomes a revolution. The Wright brothers believed in flight when no one else did. They weren't engineers. They didn't have the money or the backing, but they had belief, and belief, when paired with unwavering action, makes mockery of odds. Do not underestimate what can happen when one human refuses to surrender their vision. That can be you, not someday, not when you feel ready. Now, you think the future waits for your confidence. No, it moves at the speed of your decisions. And when your decisions are built on belief, everything accelerates, momentum compounds, people align, doors appear where there were only walls. But it begins with the inner declaration, this is who I am now, not this is who I'm trying to be. That leaves room for doubt. No, you must speak it like truth before it's visible. That's the law of all transformation. And the world may push back, it always does. It tests the strength of your conviction. Life will ask, how bad do you want it? Will you still believe after failure, after rejection, after silence? That's when you decide, I didn't come this far to collapse. I came to conquer, and what are you conquering? Not others, not competition, your old self, the one addicted to comfort, the one trained by scarcity, the one who made fear a religion and called it being realistic. Destroy that version. Starve it, replace it, because your new future will not fit inside your old frame. You must grow. Stretch. Break your mental bones if you must. Pain is part of the upgrade. Rewiring your beliefs is not a motivational exercise. It's a war for the throne of your mind, and if you do not seize it, your programming will, and it will run loops of failure, fear, and false limits until your potential is buried beneath excuses. But you're not here to be buried. You're here to build, and belief is your blueprint. The stronger the belief, the higher you can build. But you must lay the foundation deep, not in wishes, not in surface affirmations, but in identity. Identity is the soil in which belief roots itself. If your identity still says, I'm just trying, you haven't committed. If it says, this might work, you're still negotiating. You must stamp it in your soul, this is who I am. I do not break. I do not retreat. I rise. There is nothing more magnetic, more unstoppable, than a human whose belief is fused to identity and ignited by action. That person can walk through failure and still burn with certainty. That person doesn't beg for results. They expect them because they've already lived them in the mind. And here's the deeper truth. The world doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you believe you deserve. So if your results don't match your vision, go back. Examine the roots. Don't curse the fruit if you haven't cultivated the soil. What do you believe you are worthy of? Not with your words, with your life. Do your habits match your hunger? Do your standards match your goals? Do your thoughts match the future you say you're chasing? Because the greatest form of betrayal is self. Betrayal living beneath your potential, nodding along to mediocrity, while your soul screams for more. That screaming, that pull, that's not anxiety, that's not restlessness, that's destiny knocking, asking if you're finally ready to stop watching others live out what you were too scared to claim. You can't be neutral anymore. Belief is a choice. Every day you either step forward into your future or backwards into your past. There is no standing still. You want a new reality. You need a new belief system, not just about success, but about you. You are not broken. You are becoming, but becoming takes belief. Becoming takes rebellion against everything inside you that whispers, stay safe. Because safety is the graveyard of greatness. You want transformation. You want legacy. Then stop feeding your fears and start feeding your future. You were not born to live on repeat. You were born to reinvent, to rewire every mental circuit that told you your dreams were too big, too wild, too far. You were born to tear down the scaffolding of doubt built by people who quit on themselves and tried to pass it off as wisdom. Reject it. Return it to sender. That's not your truth. Your truth is this. You are the engineer of your evolution. Not by bloodline, not by luck, but by belief. Belief is what turns average into relentless. It's what carves masterpieces out of misfits. It's what takes a man like Lincoln, who failed in business, lost elections, suffered tragedy, and turns him into a symbol of endurance and vision. Why? Because the man refused to let setbacks rewrite his purpose. He rewired the story, and so must you. You are not stuck. You are standing on the edge of a mental cliff, and the only thing holding you back is the lie that you cannot fly. But wings grow in flight, confidence grows in motion, and belief strengthens every time you dare to act in defiance of fear. So act, move, build while the voice in your head trembles, because bold action silences the noise. You don't need less fear, you need more purpose, because when purpose roars loud enough, fear becomes background static, and purpose begins with a question, what am I willing to fight for internally until the external reflects it? Not for applause, not for approval, but because this is who I am now, not a dreamer, not a dabbler, but a doer, a force, a builder of belief so unshakable, the ground you walk on rises to meet you. That's the shift. That's the power, and don't get it twisted. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. Alignment with a future that already exists in the field of potential. It's waiting on you to meet it with enough belief to collapse the distance. See, belief is how you collapse time. When you move with certainty, time bends, events line up, resources appear, people are drawn in. That's not coincidence, that's congruence. The outer world aligns with your inner state. That's not mysticism, that's cause and effect. That's Napoleon Hill's eternal truth. Thoughts become things when backed by burning desire and unwavering faith. And that burning desire, that's belief with gasoline poured on it. But most people water it down. They negotiate with their dreams. They tone themselves down to fit in. You weren't made for that. You were made to expand, to stretch belief like steel cable, unbreakable, flexible, fierce. You want to know how empires are built. One thought, one belief, obsessed over, defended, reinforced, until it becomes reality. That's not a dream, that's design, and you are the architect. But you must build differently now. You must stop using the bricks of old excuses to construct the walls of your life. Tear it all down, strip it to the foundation, then ask, what do I believe about myself? What do I believe about the world? What do I believe is possible for me? Write it down, burn the old script, etch the new one into your daily actions, because belief is not what you write in journals. It's what you prove in the dark, in the silence. When no one is watching, and the easiest thing in the world is to delay again. But not you, not anymore. Because now you understand your future is made of what you repeatedly believe and act upon. Not what you hope for, but what you embody. So embody it, walk like it, train like it. Build like the future is already yours because in belief it is. You're not just changing your mindset. You're changing the gravitational pull of your life. You're stepping out of the fog of limitation into the clarity of power. That's what belief does. It doesn't make the journey easy, it makes it inevitable. And once inevitability enters your spirit, the world has no choice but to respond. People will look at you differently, not because you're louder, but because you're clearer. You've become a signal, and the signal is strong. This is what happens when belief isn't a feeling, but a frequency. Tune into it every morning, protect it like gold, build rituals around it, and cut out anything and anyone that tries to dim it, because belief is fragile when it's new. Guard it like fire in a storm. Feed it with evidence, with action, with victory, even small ones. They add up. They reinforce the loop. Every day the wiring strengthens. Every day the new identity locks in. Every day your future gets louder. Until one day you wake up and realize, I've become what I used to pray for. And that, my friend, is the reward of relentless belief. Look back once more, not to stay there, but to remember how far you've come. Look at all the beliefs that once chained you, the doubts that ruled your mornings, the fears that whispered you weren't enough, and now look at you standing taller, thinking sharper, seeing further. Not because the world changed, but because you did. This is what the world doesn't teach. You don't chase change, you become it, and once you become it, everything shifts, not overnight, but undeniably. Belief compounds like time. One day it feels invisible, the next it's unstoppable. This is what greatness is made of, not noise, not hype, not luck, but silent belief practiced loudly, daily, ferociously. Without negotiation, the giants of history knew this. Carnegie knew it, Disney knew it, Hill devoted his life to it. They mastered their minds first, and the world became a mirror. That is the secret. The internal war must be won before the external world can be conquered. And belief is the weapon, faith is the fuel, and purpose is the map. But don't misunderstand, you'll still bleed, you'll still question, you'll still fall. But belief is what helps you rise before the world even realizes you stumbled, because you will no longer be driven by how things feel. You'll be driven by how things must be. There's no room left for casual ambition. No tolerance for low standards, no patience for average. Why? Because your new belief system is allergic to mediocrity. You have upgraded your operating system. You've overwritten the code of fear with the script of destiny. And now everything changes. You'll begin to walk into rooms with unshakable calm. You'll speak, and people will lean in, not because you're louder, but because your energy speaks before your words. You'll execute when others hesitate. You'll prepare while others party. You'll visualize while others distract. And soon you won't just be believing in the future, you'll be living it. And make no mistake, it won't be easy. The world will still test you. But it cannot break the one who rewired the roots, because when the roots are strong, the storm becomes irrelevant. This isn't just mindset. This is a rebirth, a reclamation of power, a rewiring of what you tolerate from yourself and what you now demand. And from this day forward, you demand more clarity, more purpose, more focus, more ownership, because you know now belief is not something you carry, it is something you become. You're not here to figure it out. You're here to unleash what's already within you. This future you seek, it's not somewhere far off. It's inside, pounding against the walls of your current identity, begging to be let out. So let it out. Let out the discipline that's been waiting for activation. Let out the leader who never needed permission. Let out the fire that used to flicker and now burns like a signal to the world. I have arrived, not because someone chose you, but because you finally chose yourself. This is your moment, right now, not in theory, not in inspiration, but in execution. You now know the formula. Rewire your thoughts, rewire your emotions, rewire your actions, rewire your beliefs, and the future rewrites itself. It doesn't matter where you started, only what you decide now. So decide. Say it out loud. I will not live by the limits I inherited. I will not repeat the cycles that broke me. I will build, believe, and become until reality catches up with the vision I carry. And it will. Oh, it will, because when belief becomes identity, the world bows to the one who refuses to.